The gravel crunched under the tires of my overstuffed Toyota Highlander as I pulled into the parking lot of Pine Hollow Retreat, a sprawling lakeside resort nestled in the rolling hills of northern Michigan. It was July 17, 2025, and the humid summer air pressed against my skin as I stepped out, squinting into the late afternoon sun. The SUV groaned with the weight of coolers packed with homemade roast beef sandwiches, bags of crisp apples, and enough Capri Suns to hydrate a small army. The trunk was a chaotic Tetris of beach towels, a weathered Scrabble set, inflatable flamingos, and my brother-in-law's old fishing poles, everything I'd meticulously prepared for our annual family getaway. This was supposed to be a week of laughter, late-night bonfires, and the kind of chaos only a dozen relatives could create. Instead, I found myself staring at a scene that made my stomach twist. 5 children huddled beneath a sagging wooden gazebo, their faces a mix of boredom and uncertainty. No adults. No husband. Just me standing beside my overloaded car, with a creeping dread that something was very, very wrong. Auntie Claire. My niece Ellie broke away from the group first, her lime green flip-flops slapping the ground as she ran toward me. At 9 years old, she was all elbows and knees, her auburn braids swinging like a metronome. I knelt to catch her in a hug, forcing a smile despite the confusion clawing at my chest. "We've been waiting forever," she said, her voice bright but edged with impatience. "Where's Uncle Nate?" I asked, scanning the empty lot for my husband's silver Tacoma. "And your parents?" The other kids, me nephews Ryan and Ben, my niece Sadie, and my sister-in-law's son, Owen, ambled over, dragging their backpacks like reluctant pilgrims. 5 kids aged 8 to 14, all looking at me with expectant eyes. No Nate. No other cars. No explanation. "Mom and Dad dropped us off with Uncle Nate at the gas station on Route 12, said Ryan, 12 and already cultivating a preteen slouch. He kicked a pebble with his scuffed Adidas. "He said they had to run an errand and we'd meet up here. That was like hours ago." I checked my watch, 4:03 p.m. Nate had texted me at noon, saying he'd picked up the kids and was heading to the cabins early to get things settled. I'd assumed that meant unloading the charcoal grill or wrestling with the temperamental Wi-Fi. He should have been here by 2 at the latest. "Let's get you into some shade," I said, keeping my tone light as I unlocked the Highlander. "Who's hungry?" The kids swarmed the tailgate as I handed out sandwiches and juice pouches, their chatter filling the air with a comforting normalcy I desperately clung to. I pulled out my phone and dialed Nate. Straight to voicemail. "Hey, it's me. I'm at Pine Hollow with the kids. Where are you? Call me back." I tried my sister Tara, Ellie, and Ryan's mom next. Voicemail again. Same with my brother-in-law Greg and his wife Michelle, who were supposed to bring Owen and Sadie. A cold prickle ran down my spine. "Uncle Nate was texting a bunch in the truck," Ben offered, wiping mustard from his chin. At 10 he was the quiet one, but his hazel eyes were sharp. He kept grinning at his phone. "Stopped at that gas station for like forever." "Yeah," Sadie chimed in, her 13-year-old voice laced with teenage disdain. "He was talking to some lady outside by the pumps. I thought he was just flirting or something gross." "Did he say where he was going when he left you here?" I asked, passing out napkins to hide the tremor in my hands. Owen, the youngest at 8, piped up, his round face smeared with peanut butter. "He said to be super good for Auntie Claire, 'cause you'd be taking care of us by yourself for a while." "A while?" My voice cracked slightly. "Did he say how long?" Owen shrugged, oblivious to the weight of his words. "Nope. But he gave us each $20 and said it was for being awesome." I turned away, pretending to rummage in the cooler, as my mind raced. $20 each? 5 kids, no adults, and a vague promise I'd be taking care of them? This wasn't Nate running late or getting stuck in traffic. This felt deliberate, orchestrated. I herded the kids toward the resort office, their chatter about swimming and esmeraldas buzzing around me like static. The woman at the desk, mid-40s, with a perky smile and a name tag reading Brenda, greeted me warmly. "Welcome to Pine Hollow, Mrs. Harper. We've got your 3 cabins ready. Your husband called this morning to confirm." "He called." I gripped the counter, my knuckles whitening. "When?" "Oh, around 9. Said there'd been a change of plans but you'd handle check-in." Sounded like he was in a hurry. Brenda's smile faltered as she glanced at the kids clustered behind me. Everything okay? I'm not sure yet, I admitted, my voice tight. Can you give me just one set of keys for now? We might not need all three. Outside, I sat the kids on a splintered bench and tried Nate again. Voicemail. Nate. I'm at the resort with the kids. No one else is here. Call me back now. The sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the gravel, as we hauled our bags to cabin 12. The kids raced ahead, claiming bunks and squealing over the loft, their excitement a stark contrast to the dread pooling in my gut. Inside, I found a stack of 20s $100 total in the kitchen counter, pinned beneath a sticky note in Nate's blocky handwriting. Pizza money for the week. Enjoy. Enjoy. I muttered, staring at the note as if it might sprout legs and explain itself. Nate never went anywhere without his prized fishing rod, a sleek, carbon fiber beauty his dad had given him before he passed. Yet there it was, propped against the bedroom wall, still in its case. My legs buckled and I sank into a chair, the kids' voices fading to a dull hum. This wasn't an oversight. He wasn't coming back. My phone lit up with a text, and my heart leapt until I saw the sender. Nate. My finger hovered over the message, a foolish part of me hoping for an apology, an explanation, anything but what I feared. I tapped it open. Claire, taking my new crew to Costa Rica. You've got the kids. Cabins are paid for. Divorce papers coming when I'm back. Don't bother calling. The words slammed into me like a freight train. Costa Rica. New crew. Divorce. I read it again, searching for a crack in its cold finality, but there was none. The phone slipped from my hand, clattering to the floor, and Ellie appeared in the doorway, her brow furrowed. Auntie Claire, you okay? You look all white. I'm fine, sweetie, I lied, the words ash in my mouth. Just tired from driving. Can you grab me some water? She nodded, unconvenient said, and darted off. I pressed my palms to my eyes, fighting the nausea rising in my throat. 17 years of marriage gone in a text. He'd planned this down to the cabins and the cash, leaving me to pick up the pieces while he jetted off with some mystery woman. New crew, he'd said. Who the hell was she? Ellie returned with a glass, her small hand steadying mine as I sipped. Thanks, hon, I managed, forcing a smile. The kids didn't need to know, not yet. They deserved one last night of innocence before I shattered their world with the truth. Sleep eluded me that night. The cabin's thin walls creaked with every gust of wind off the lake, and a loon's mournful wail echoed in the darkness, mirroring the ache in my chest. The kids were sprawled across the loft in a tangle of sleeping bags, their soft snores a fragile tether to normalcy. I retrieved my laptop from the car and set it up on the kitchen table, the screen's blue glow casting harsh shadows across the pine paneling. If Nate thought he could vanish without consequence, he'd forgotten who I was or who I'd been before he'd convened said me to step back from our life's work. We'd built Horizon Properties together, a real estate development firm that started as a dream sketched on napkins in our tiny Ann Arbor apartment. I'd been the numbers whiz, a CPA with a knack for spotting patterns, while Nate charmed investors and closed deals. Over the years, he'd nudged me out of the day-to-day, insisting I deserve a break after our daughter Lily was stillborn, a loss that had fractured us in ways we never fully repaired. I trusted him to run things, content to manage our home and play the supportive wife. What a fool I'd been. I logged into our joint bank account, something I hadn't done in months. The first anomaly hit me like a slap. A $30,000 transfer to an unfamiliar account, dated 3 weeks ago. I scrolled back, $15,000 here, $22,000 there, all labeled consulting or project expenses. 6 months of withdrawals totaled over $250,000. My pulse thundered as I switched to Horizon's business software, my old admin credentials still active despite Nate's efforts to edge me out. The company books were a mess of inflated vendor payments, properties flipped with shady financing, and a recurring payee, Summit Advisory Group. I'd never heard of it. Summit, I whispered, the name nagging at me. I opened Nate's sparsely used Instagram, finding nothing but polished family photos and bland business posts. But a search for check-ins at the upscale restaurants on our credit card statements, places like the Gilded Fork, where Nate had claimed client dinners, revealed a pattern. A woman appeared in the background of several shots. Tall, blonde, with a poised elegance that screamed money. Comments tagged her as Vanessa or V, with captions like power duo and couple goals. Vanessa Summit. My hand shook as I typed Vanessa Summit Advoisari into Google. The results stopped my breath. Vanessa Kendrick, founder of Summit Advoisari Group, was a former SEC analyst turned private fraud investigator. Her firm's website boasted her expertise in unraveling complex financial schemes and delivering justice for defrauded stakeholders. She'd taken down a hedge fund CEO 2 years ago, tracing his laundering through a dozen offshore shells. And there, in a grainy conference photo from last fall, was Nate shaking her hand at Horizon's annual gala, his grin wide and oblivious. A laugh escaped Mesharp unhinged. Nate hadn't just cheated on me. He'd fallen for a woman who was likely dissecting his every move. He thought he was playing her, seducing a brilliant consultant to hide his tracks, when she was probably recording his confessions over candlelit dinners. The irony was exquisite. He was in Costa Rica with a predator, not a partner, and he had no idea. Dawn broke over the lake, the sky blushing pink as mist curled off the water. The kids stirred upstairs, their footsteps thumping overhead. I closed my laptop, exhaustion warring with a newfound clarity. Nate had underestimated me, assuming I'd crumble under his betrayal. He'd forgotten that before I'd traded my career for his dreams, I'd been a forensic accountant, damn good at it too. He'd left me with 5 kids and a smoking gun, and I'd be damned if I let him walk away unscathed. I texted Tara. Need your help. Call me. Then I poured a coffee and watched the herons glide across the lake, their grace belying the chaos in my world. This wasn't just about me anymore. It was about the kids, the company, and every investor Nate had screwed over. He'd handed me the match. Now I'd light the fire. Tara arrived by noon, her minivan kicking up dust as she parked beside my Highlander. She took one look at my haggard face and pulled me into a hug. What's going on, Claire? Where's Nate? He's gone, I said, handing her Nate's text. Her eyes widened as she read, her freckled face paling. He left the kids with me and took off to Costa Rica with some woman. I think he's been stealing from Horizon too. Jesus, she breathed, glancing at the kids splashing in the lake. What do we do? You watch them, I said, nodding toward the water. I've got calls to make. She didn't argue, just squeezed my arm and headed to the shore. I dialed an old colleague, Sarah Jennings, who'd left accounting to start her own firm. We'd worked together at Deloitte before I joined Nate's venture, chasing paper trails with a precision that bordered on obsession. Claire Harper, as I live and breathe, Sarah answered, her voice warm with surprise. What's it been, 8 years? Too long, I said, my throat tight. Sarah, I'm in trouble. I need your help off the books for now. Spill it, she said, all business. I laid it out. Nate's disappearance, the kids, the financial red flags. With each word my resolve hardened. I think he's been embezzling, and this Vanessa Kendrick might be onto him or worse, in on it. Sarah whistled low. Vanessa Kendrick? She's a shark, Claire. Took down Meridian Capital like it was a house of cards. If she's tangled up with Nate, he's either her mark or her puppet. You've got proof. Enough to start, I said. Bank statements, company records. I can show he cut me out while siphoning funds. Good. Protect yourself first, build a wall between you and his mess. I know a guy, Tom Delaney, forensic accountant extraordinaire. I'll have him call you in 20. Tom's call came as promised, his clipped efficiency grounding me as I watched the kids build a lopsided sandcastle. Mrs. Harper, Sarah filled me in. You've got documentation. Yes, I said, detailing the timeline I'd pieced together. Me phased exit from Horizon, Nate's insistence on sole financial control, the shady transactions that followed. He used me as a front, didn't he? Textbook move, Tom replied. Keeps the legit side clean while he works the shadows. Send me what you've got. We'll lock it down. Next, I called Paul Grayson, one of Horizon's original investors and a man who'd always treated me like a daughter. He'd pulled his funding 18 months ago, a move Nate had brushed off as market jitters. His gravelly voice answered on the third ring. Claire? What's this about? Why'd you leave Horizon, Paul? I asked, cutting through pleasantries. The real reason. He sighed long and heavy. I saw holes in the numbers profits that didn't match the projects. I pushed Nate and he fed me excuses. My accountant flagged it as trouble, so I bailed. He said you were struggling depression, maybe worse. Said it'd upset you if I brought it up. The lie stung sharp and familiar. There was no depression, Paul. He isolated me to hide what he was doing. Son of a bitch, he muttered. What's he done now? Ran off with a woman and left me with 5 kids. I think he's been stealing from the company big time. Paul swore again, then softened. What do you need from me? Names, I said. Anyone else he pushed away with lies about me. By dusk I had a list. Investors, partners, even a former COO, all fed variations of Nate's fiction: depression, gambling, burnout. He'd built a cage around me, brick by brick, and I hadn't seen it until the door slammed shut. The next morning I faced a harder choice. The kids deserved stability, but I couldn't keep them indefinitely without legal cover. I called Child Protective Services, asking for a caseworker named Rachel Torres, a contact Sarah's sister had vouched for. Mrs. Harper, how can I assist? Rachel's voice was brisk but kind. My husband abandoned 5 children in my care at Pine Hollow Resort, I said, steadying my breath. He's not coming back. I need to know how to handle this legally, my nieces and nephews, but I'm not their guardian. Are they safe? She asked. Yes, but I can't just keep them without their parents' consent. He left them with me via text and took off to Costa Rica. Rachel outlined the steps. Contact the parents, document Nate's abandonment, file for temporary guardianship if needed. This protects you and them, she said. If he tries to spin this later, you'll have proof you acted responsibly. I thanked her and hung up, staring at the lake where the kids splashed, oblivious to the storm brewing. Then I dialed Arthur Langston, Horizon's board chairman, a silver-haired bulldog who'd always seen me as Nate's arm candy. Claire, he drawled, irritation lacing his tone. What's this about? I'm calling an emergency board meeting, I said. Today. That's not how it works. As a co-founder with authority under the bylaws, I can call it for suspected malfeasance. I cut in, quoting the clause I'd memorized years ago. We meet at 3 Wire Tool. I've got evidence of financial fraud that could sink Horizon. He sputtered. If this is some marital spat. It's not. It's about Sir VY Val. Board or SE sire pick. By 2:50, I'd settled the kids with popcorn and a Pixar marathon, my laptop open in the bedroom. At 3 o'clock, 8 faces filled the screen, ranging from skeptical to alarmed. Thank you for joining. I began sharing my slides. This is about Horizon's future. For 30 minutes I laid it bare. The offshore transfers, the fake invoices, Nate's isolation tactics. I showed emails where he'd overridden my objections, bank records of suspicious outflows, and testimonials from ex-partners. When I finished, the silence was thick. Nate's in Costa Rica with Vanessa Kendrick, I added. She's a fraud investigator. I think she's been onto him for months. Kendrick, board member Linda Voss gasped. She's ruthless. If she's involved, we're already on borrowed time. Freeze his access, I said. Start an audit. And release a statement when his plane lands due back in 2 hours. Lock him out before he can shred anything. They agreed, stunned into action. As the call ended, I glanced at my flight tracker app. Nate's plane was 90 minutes from Detroit Metro. I leaned back, adrenaline surging. He'd built his empire on my trust. Now I'd tear it down with his own lies. The kids were giggling over a collapsing card tower when Nate's flight landed at 5:12 p.m. At 5:15, the press release hit. Horizon Properties suspends CEO Nathan Harper pending internal investigation into financial irregularities. My phone rang at 5:25. Nate. What the fuck, Claire? He roared. I'm getting calls about a suspension. You should have stayed in Costa Rica, I said, stepping onto the porch. The board's seen everything, your accounts, your scams. How's Vanessa, by the way? Still digging for dirt. You're insane, he snapped, but his bravado cracked. Where are the kids? With me, where you dumped them. CPS has a report on that too. You're done, Nate. He unleashed a tirade, curses, threats, denial, but I cut him off. Check your email. The audit starts tomorrow. Good luck. I hung up as Ryan tugged my sleeve, asking for marshmallows. Let's fire up the pit, I said, ruffling his hair. Normalcy for them, chaos for Nate. Felt right. The next day, the dominoes fell fast. Vanessa had been working with the FBI. Her romance with Nate a calculated sting. She'd handed over recordings, documents, a roadmap of his crimes. He was detained exiting his condo, still clutching his Costa Rica tan. Tara and Greg arrived to collect their kids, their shock palpable as I explained. He'll pay for this, Greg vowed, hugging Owen tight. Alone in cabin 12 that night, I watched the lake shimmer under a crescent moon. My phone buzzed. Sarah. You okay? Saw the news. I typed back, getting there. One step at a time. The water lapped the shore, steady and indifferent, as I skipped a stone across its surface. 3 bounces, then gone. Like Nate's empire, sinking beneath the weight of his own greed. 3 weeks later, I sat in a sterile federal office, facing Agent Carla Esposito. Her questions were surgical, peeling back layers of Nate's deception. You had no inkling of this? She asked, tapping her pen. None, I said. He pushed me out years ago, lied to everyone about why. I only saw the truth when he left. Matches Kendrick's story, Esposito said. She came to us 8 months back, suspicious of Horizon. Didn't expect Nate to chase her, but it worked out. She's got him on tape bragging about the offshore stashes, the fake deals. Arrogant bastard. So she played him, I said, almost admiring the twist. Professionally, yeah. Personally, she says that was unplanned. He pushed, she adapted. I met Vanessa 2 days later at a quiet diner. She was understated linen blazer, no makeup, eyes that saw too much. I didn't know you were real, she said, stirring her tea. He painted you as a ghost, detached, irrelevant. He's good at that, I replied. Until he's not. I'm sorry, she said, and I believed her. The kids, that wasn't supposed to happen. It woke me up, I admitted. So maybe it's a twisted gift. She nodded, and we parted with an odd mutual respect. Nate had tried to bury us both. Instead, we'd unearthed him. Months later, I stood at Horizon's boardroom helm. The city skyline glinting through the glass. Nate's plea deal, 10 years for fraud and evasion, had just hit the wires. The company thrived under my lead, scars healing with every transparent report. At Pine Hollow for a solo weekend, I opened my laptop in cabin 12, finishing the NVY Cybele Ledgerme book, My Redemption. As the sun dipped low, I skipped a stone across the lake. 4 bounces, a new record. The ripples spread, endless and free, like the life I'd reclaimed from the wreckage Nate left behind.